The Daily Workout. I'm Catherine, your sourcing coach in the recruiting gym, and I'm joined this morning for LinkedIn Update Week by Mr. LinkedIn himself. It's Mark Williams. Hi, Mark. How are you doing?
Morning. I'm great, Catherine. How are you?
Oh, I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, can't
Good.
complain today. Oh, thank you so much for joining us. I mentioned you in yesterday's session, so we were talking about how we stay up to date with, changes on LinkedIn and trends and all that kind of stuff. And obviously, your podcast is a great source of information on that front. How long have you been doing the podcast now? A lot
Oh
of
God.
episodes.
Now that's a difficult question to answer. I can tell you it's 380. I'm recording the 387th episode this week,
Wow.
and it's mostly weekly. But if you worked out how many, if you worked back by weeks to work out when I started, that wouldn't be the case because I haven't always managed to do one every week. So I'm not sure exactly when it started date wise, but 387 anyway. So
Wow.
I said
Nice.
I'll give up at 500. And I'm like, that seems a long way away, but I imagine we'll get there fairly quickly. And I think I'll probably stick to that because, you can overdo something, but I think I'll be retiring by the time I get to 500. So,
Or maybe just do specials after that, if something
yeah,
really big
maybe.
and important happens.
Yeah.
Well, good morning to everyone in our chat. Thank you so much for tuning in live. Hi, Charlotte. Hi, Vanessa, Danny. Lovely to have you with us. If you've got any questions for Mark, do put those in the chat, or just any comments if you want to tell us how your morning's going. We always love hearing about it. Today, I think one of the things that you mentioned on the most recent episode of your podcast, or certainly the most recent one I listened to, was about the changes to the activity section on profiles. Can you sort of tell us what's changed?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those ones that's, as you know, by listening to the podcast, I'm quite frank in my views on LinkedIn, and if I don't like something, I'll say it. And I think a lot of people like that. But equally, I like to try and be balanced. And where they produce something that I think is really good, I'll equally say that as well. It's a shame I don't get to say too many positive things. It seems to be like a 3-to-1 ratio of negative to positive. But this is a good one. So what we used to see is the all activity section. So if you go to someone's profile and typically you're checking them out and you go down, scroll down. If they're on creator mode, it's higher up in the profile, but with anyone, as long as they're active, you can see it says see all activity and you click on that and then it takes you into a breakdown, if you like, of the different types of activities, which traditionally were all activity, which is, their reactions and comments and the like, posts. And then you might see documents used to be there as well, and articles as well. And but that was 2 clicks away, so a little bit fiddly. I wouldn't say at the time that I was using that I ever thought it was a particular problem, but since they brought this new feature out, if you went backwards, you'd find that really clumsy to use. So now when you go to a profile, and again, it's a rollout, so not everyone's going to see this, but if you just look at mine here, and by the way, when changes like this happen, it always changes from the point of view of the account of the viewer. So it has changed for you because you're viewing my profile, but someone else viewing my profile might see this differently. But if you look at the activity section there right at the top, I've just gone over 23,000 followers.
Oh, congratulations. Well done.
Yeah.
Hopefully a few of those are recruiting gym members.
I don't get overly excited about that figure particularly, but I just noticed that. Anyway, sorry. So now you can see this breakdown, and this covers most of the scenarios that you're gonna have, but you can see there's a further breakdown than there used to be previously. So it lands on posts, but that's within my control. I can actually change that, so it could land on videos if I wanted to. I can change that in my settings. But you can see there it actually gives comments and also images and articles, newsletter and documents. So there's a much greater breakdown there. Now, one of the things that and different people are getting a slightly different view of this as well, I have to say. It's one of those things. They're obviously testing it. And because I know someone who also sees interests in there as well, which is weird because interests have never been part of activity. They've had their own section further down a profile, where you see someone's groups and who they're following, as in which influencers they're following, or top voices, they call them now. And that section, which was right down the bottom of the profile, for some people, they've brought that up here as well. So I'm not seeing that. But I think my view is also slightly different to yours as well, in that I do see comments, but I also see a reactions one, whereas you're not seeing a reactions one there. So it seems like they're testing different things. I prefer to see a breakdown between comments and reactions. That's quite interesting for me. I want to go, if I'm clicking on comments, that's what I want to see. Whereas I'm assuming if you click on comments there, you're going to see presumably not just, it just doesn't give you reactions, does it?
No, it's literally just your comment.
Yeah. So you just have, unless I don't react much, I tend to mainly comment, but it may be that if I did, it would be that reactions are being there as well. But on mine, I see reactions. Anyway, the important point here is that, and I didn't realize this until I got it and played with it, is that you'll notice that there's articles and newsletter there.
Yeah.
And if you have a newsletter, what that one means is, and if you just click on newsletter for me, just for a second there, that shows articles, but those articles are part of the LinkedIn Formed newsletter. Okay. Because obviously a newsletter is merely just a collection of articles. But then if you click on articles, what you'll see is they are articles that are not associated to a newsletter. Now, traditionally, we just had articles and everything was in together. So obviously, all your recent ones would be at the top. However, if someone goes to this section now and clicks on articles, what they might see, I think with most people, I would imagine, who have a newsletter anyway, is that they're going to see very old articles, because why would you produce an article and not associate it to a newsletter? Because with a newsletter, you've got subscribers and you're going to get a much higher level of views. So an impression. So I think most people are going to find that their articles are quite out of date. Now, mine's not, because that carousel post one, I added that one in quite recently when I found this to be the case, because I thought I want something more recent in there. So I produced an article in isolation without it being part of the newsletter. So I don't know how clear that is, the way I've explained it.
But... no, it makes sense. And I think maybe if you've got, so to have a newsletter as an individual, you'd need to be in creator mode, wouldn't you?
You would these days, yeah. I think traditionally, before they brought out creator mode, there would be people that got newsletter and haven't chosen to be on creator mode. So there'll be some exceptions to that. But I think going forward, if you want to get access to newsletter, you would need to be creator mode, yeah.
So I guess for me, I would say I wouldn't want to be in creator mode. I like having the connect button on my profile. So I guess newsletter just wouldn't appear for me, and the articles would be as up to date or out of date as they are. But yeah, for anyone producing a newsletter, that's almost interesting that articles would even be there. It's almost like newsletter should have supplanted that.
It was interesting to me that LinkedIn saw the two things as being quite separate and different. And I say I'm a little bit unsure why anybody would produce an article that isn't going to go to subscribers. Do you know what I mean? It just seems a bit.
If your newsletter is very regular on a certain day of the week with a very definite topic, if you wanted to share anything else, it could be as an article. But
yeah, I mean, it could. That might be why someone might do it.
Seems strange.
I'm not sure I'd advise them to do that, because the problem with articles is they're really hard to get eyes on them. You know, I mean, obviously at the point you publish it, you do a post for it, but beyond that, that's about it. And you get less engagement on articles than you do on posts. So the distribution channel for articles in isolation is very limited. So a lot of people, myself included, were just going off articles. Didn't see any point in doing it. And only for kind of credibility, you know, something long form in your profile, putting in your featured section. That was kind of the only reason to do it. Whereas when they brought out newsletter, then you get subscribers to newsletter. And that's actually very powerful, because they get notified and they get an email, and the email has the article embedded in it. So they can literally just read it from the email. And so it's a bit like an email newsletter, really, you know, a subscriber list in that regard. So that changed the game totally as far as articles are concerned. So, yeah, I mean, I think most people that are producing articles are doing it under a newsletter these days. But I don't think everyone understands that the way this looks, especially if you haven't got the feature, you wouldn't be able to see it. But the way this looks is it's going to show, because that employee verification one, that's got to be, I don't know, at least 12 months old, maybe a bit longer, maybe
My
18
articles are
months.
positively ancient. So I think there's one in there from like 2019.
Which the thing, people stopped doing articles, didn't they? Because you just weren't getting the numbers and the viewers on them. So that's what tends to have happened. So, but it's nice, isn't it? It's easier to use. It's kind of it just makes a lot more sense to me, really.
Definitely. And from a recruitment point of view, if I'm looking at a candidate's profile, it's now a section which is just much easier to make sense of.
Yeah.
Before it was just sort of a confusing mixture of things. I almost didn't know if it was the most recent things or not. You really did have to click into view all activity and look at it more forensically. Whereas, and I feel like a lot of people didn't even realize that you could do that, or weren't even thinking about doing it, even if they did know. Whereas this just puts it front and center, and just immediately the whole section clicks. You can see, oh, okay, yeah, this person might not have posted recently, but they're commenting on things. They're definitely active on LinkedIn. Might be worth reaching out to.
Absolutely. If you just go back into it on my profile and just refresh it.
Cool.
See how it's got posts on the left hand side.
So if I refresh the page,
and go down to it again. See how now it's highlighted newsletter. So the order's the same, but it was before post was green and what you saw were posts underneath. And I just went in and changed it to newsletter. So just to demonstrate, that's the other thing you can do. You can define which page specifically people land on. Now that, of course, from a recruitment point of view, isn't always necessarily a good thing, because you will want to see what you want to see, and that might not be what they want you to see. That said, I mean, it's not difficult, is it? You just click at the top there. Again, it's a lot quicker than having to click on all activity and then choose something. So
definitely, yeah. And for us as well, we can choose the thing which is going to sell us best or make most sense to, a candidate or a client looking at our profile. We can say, well, actually, I'm messaging a lot of people about a particular job this week. I'm going to make sure that I choose something which shows, I've recently shared information about that role. Just making everything add up.
Yeah, it's as opposed to other features that they've brought out recently, such as that one there, collaborative articles. This one's been well thought through, I think, and I can't really be that critical of it. It looks good all round.
It's a tiny tweak, but I think it makes a real difference from both from a job seeker point of view, looking at us, and from us looking at candidate profiles or checking out potential clients. I think, from both angles, it just makes sense that something so small could, just make that whole section feel useful.
Yeah, I know someone who knows what they're talking about with regards to that kind of user experience has or user design has had a word with LinkedIn, or they've figured it out themselves. They always say that they make changes based on feedback. I'm never quite sure if I believe that, but maybe there was someone that saw that and gave them the idea to do that, because it's been the other way for a long time. And I certainly never thought about that as a change and never came up with that idea at all. But once they've made it, you realize that it does make quite a difference. So well done, LinkedIn.
Yeah. Thank you very much, LinkedIn. Excellent. Well, and thank you to you too, Mark, for coming along and talking us through that. I really appreciate it. And we put links in the chat there to Mark on LinkedIn if you want to go follow him. There's also the LinkedIn Forum podcast link there as well if you want to check that out. I do like beaming a bit of news into my ears. I find that very digestible. So hopefully you'll come back and share with us again at some point. But
I think next time we might need to be talking about AI on profiles, because they've just announced today they're bringing out a new feature that allows people to create new about sections and new headlines by clicking a button, and AI will just do it for them.
AI will sort of take their profile and boil
take
it
the
down
information in their profile write it in a better way, reconfigure it, put all the things in the right place, etc., all just at the click of a button. I haven't got it yet because it's obviously only just been announced today and it'll be rolling out. But by the time we come to do this next time, we'd have probably had a chance to play with it a bit more and decide whether we think it's any good or not. I'm a bit skeptical, but we'll see.
Yeah, I feel like, I feel skeptical that it will work, but very excited to try it and see what it's like.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Oh, excellent. Wow. Yeah. If you've got a link or anything about that, I'd be interested to see it. But or I can just wait for the next episode to come out.
Yeah, I haven't got it to hand right now because I literally read it this morning because it obviously time differences and whatever, it was done yesterday, but I didn't see that until first thing this morning. So but I'm going to be covering it in this week's podcast. So
brilliant. Well, we'll make sure to tune in. Thank you so much.
Good
See
stuff.
you again
All right.
soon.
Thanks,
All
Catherine.
right. Take care.
Okay. Cheers. Bye.